Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comic Book Savant Video. This is episode 10. I am surprised at this point. I've made it 10 episodes in. This has been a tough transition for me going to video from audio, but so far, so good. This week, I've spotlighted some video game companies in the past. I've talked about NetherRealm Studios with Injustice Gods Among Us, and also their newest release, Injustice 2, and I've even shown you guys some footage of that game. I've talked about Marvel Heroes Omega, done by Gazillion. They've had huge success over on PC and now recently went over to console, and they're doing gangbusters, and it's a super fun game. And I showed you guys a little bit of footage and talked about that game. And this particular episode, I wanted to spotlight a company that I think has really been in the forefront of making great comic book related video games, which is Telltale Studios. Telltale Games is their technical name of the development studio. They've been around since 2004. They make more like a lot of the base core. The founders of the company used to work for LucasArts or Lucas Games back in the day, and made a lot of choose your adventure games like Grim Fandango and Full Throttle and all these, really games that have all kind of been re-released in recent years on and remastered on PlayStation 4, a lot of those classic games. But some of those developers came over, created the studio, and kept to the heart of those great games from, the early, in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And that same vibe, and they've done a lot, and they've collaborated with a lot of comic book studios. What really put them on a map a few years ago now is that they collaborated with Image Studios and Skybound the Skybound imprint within Image, which is, we all know that's Robert Kirkman's imprint, which they've done the Walking Dead game. They did the first season of The Walking Dead. It won tons of acclaim, put them on the map as a studio. They were kind of doing odd and end games before then, but really hit their stride and got really noticed with The Walking Dead. They did the first season of that game. It for a lot of sites and publications, they won Game of the Year that year. It was a phenomenal game. With Telltale Studio, still saying it wrong, Telltale Games, a lot of their things are episodic, and which is great for me, because I'm older. I don't play games nearly as hardcore as I used to. Certain games I'm into, but I buy like a handful of video games per year. I play them a lot within the games I play, but I'm not, like I used to be when I was younger, playing so many games. So, but I like the fact they're episodic. Normally they're 5 episodes. The games normally run, I think, about $20 to $25. They're going up some because they're getting more graphically intensive, and they're getting some bigger licenses, but still half the price of a normal full price game. You get 5 episodes. They run between 6 to 8 months to release all the episodes, or you can kind of wait till all of them are released. Normally on most of like the PlayStation Store through their site or any store, because one great thing about Telltale Games is that their games are on like every platform, mobile, every console, computer, Mac. You can play their games anywhere, which is cool. You have to buy them separately, so you just pick your preferred method of playing the game and stick to that format. For me, it's PlayStation 4. And again, so they're relatively inexpensive and they're super high quality. Now I'm just going to run down some of the games that started with Walking Dead, which is Image. They've done a Fables game, which is The Wolf Among Us, which is set in the Fables universe. They did a season of that. They came back with a Walking Dead season 2, which was just as good, if not better, than the first season, which was award winning. Tales of the Borderlands, which is another video game franchise, but I threw them in there because they do actually have they had a series of comics printed out on IDW, and I've actually reviewed some of those comics on the podcast before. So they've done Tales of the Borderlands, which is a comics and video game property. They did The Walking Dead Michonne, which was what they called a limited series. So it wasn't the normal 5 episodes. It was actually 3. They did that kind of as an experiment, but it ties in to the comic and fills in the gap of the time Michonne, when they jumped forward after All Out War and she was out on the boat. It kind of actually fills in the blank. So it actually ties in to the comic universe, which I thought was really cool. I have it, but I haven't played it yet. It's still on my stack to play. They did Batman last summer. They did Batman the Telltale series, which is their own continuity. DC is letting them play and make their own Batman universe, which was really good. You got to choose how you wanted to tackle situations, more as Bruce Wayne or more as Batman. Really, really groundbreaking stuff. One of their best games to date. It had some technical hiccups. They've got all that stuff smoothed out now. So that's definitely one to check out if you're a huge Batman fan. It's a different take on Batman and his relationships with his rogue gallery. It's really, really good. And it came out last year. So all these games that I mentioned now are games that are already released. All the episodes are out and you can get them in bundles and catch them on sale. Telltale is really great in the summer and and going into the winter. They have tons of sales where you can get the bundle of games, like the whole season where it was originally $25. You can get them for like $7, $8, under $10. So you definitely check your, like I said, your place of where you play your games most. Check that marketplace and do a search for Telltale Games and see how cheap you can get these games now, because they're well worth the money. They're still worth paying the $25 for them, to be honest with you. They have The Walking Dead New Frontier, which is essentially Walking Dead Season 3, which recently wrapped up a few months back. And they launched their, I think it's 2 episodes in so far, is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, a Telltale series. They have that going on. I think it is 2, maybe 3 episodes in of the 5 episodes in that series. And they recently announced a week from today, a week as of today, because it was last Wednesday when Comic-Con kicked off. They posted a YouTube video saying that they have Batman: The Enemy Within, which is the sequel to the Batman Telltale series first season. That is coming out August 4th is the first episodes being released for that. So they're kicking that off. That'll run through the rest of that, and Guardians will run through the end of 2017, because they normally run about 2 of these series consecutively, and they trade off months of releases. So if Batman starts in August, the first episode of that'll come out, and then the next month and September, then it'll be the next episode of Guardians till one finishes, and then they roll into the next. So they always have 2 rolling franchises going at the same time. And since Walking Dead just finished up and Guardians is pretty much in the middle, that's pretty much how they run, which is really cool because you can get overloaded on great gaming for cheap. So that's going to be kicking off August 4th. Then they already announced going in for 2018, we got The Walking Dead, which will be the final season. They announced it's their final season of that Walking Dead series. And it's been a continued narrative throughout. And I'm going to speak about that in a second. And with great fanfare and demand from the fans, we're finally going to get A Wolf Among Us Season 2 that they announced. But those are going to be, I guess, late 2017, maybe, or early 2018 when those are kicking off. But that's their upcoming slate for now until mid 2018, which is great because all these are great comic book games. The Wolf Among Us probably has to be one of my favorite of the Telltale games ever. Very noir 80s. I'm a kid of the 80s. Had a really good vibe and feel to it. So I've been dying for them to go back to that. And they finally announced that. So I was super, stoked on that. One thing about Telltale Games that is really good too and really, really fun is that your choices you make in one episode carries over. And then those decisions from season to season also continue over. And so it's great seeing that interaction, that you have to really think carefully on the decisions and choices that you make throughout the game, because they can come back to bite you or they can come back to help you. So it really, really invests you heavily in the game and the choices that you're making. And that's what makes a Telltale game so great. So again, still comic book related, not comic books directly, but they are really making great comic book games using these properties, doing it in a different way, and they've gotten so good at it that, DC was like, hey, you don't have to base it on any of our stuff. Make your own Batman world and story. And they did. You got to try that Batman game. Like if you are a PlayStation Plus member, because I'm a PlayStation Plus member, a lot of times they actually give you full seasons of Telltale Games for free as being part of PlayStation Plus when they do the free games of the month. So if you're on PlayStation 4, you might want to be on the lookout for that, but you got to grab it that month because those games change monthly, and if you don't grab it then you'll miss out on it, but they're still relatively cheap. You can get the Batman Enemy Within, since that's getting ready to start. You can pre-order it now and get 20% off. No, this is not sponsored by Telltale. I just really love their studio, and I've played a ton of these games. Pretty much most of these games on the list that I'm talking about, I've played or I've already purchased. And sometimes I like to just build them up and have a stack of them, because once you get into like one episode of one season, I like to have all the episodes there, and I could play through it because it draws you in, and you just, let me get the next episode. Let me get the next episode. Let me get the next episode. And they're not a huge time investment either. Each episode runs, normally they run about 90 minutes to 2 hours. So it's not a huge investment. And like I said, well worth the $20 to $25 you pay for the 5-episode series from the enjoyment you get out of them. Because, I haven't played a bad Telltale game yet. As far as these video game adaptations, I haven't played a bad one. But that's all I have for you guys this week. I'll have a link down to Telltale Games so you can check them out. Again, they're not sponsored. If you want to shout them out and tell them you heard about them here, hey, cool. But again, I just love their games, and they're doing a great thing when it comes to making comic book video game adaptations. They're taking it to the next level, and you can tell they love what they do. But that's all I got for you guys this week. I'll check you again next week on another episode of Comic Book Savant Video. You guys have a good week and play some games. Take care.